Hi, today we are going to be creating some deep water creatures. So you get to choose from many different things, but once you do, we are going to be painting them and then filling them in with some more different types of paint. So here's an example of a finished one. Let's go ahead and get to the project here. So what I have for you is a bunch of different pictures of deep water fish or creatures. So these are jellyfish. Which are really cool designs on them. Great use of line. Here's some other creatures under the sea. And here's some other pictures. So you can choose your favorite one out of these, or even look at one up that's different if you feel like none of these are doing it for you. And then you are going to create a outline of that with a clear medium gel. And what this is going to do is it's going to leave a mark where the paints cannot stick. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at this one, and I'm first going to practice in my sketchbook drawing it the best I can. And once I'm done practice drawing it, I'm ready to paint it. Because it's harder to paint, so it's easy to get all the hard stuff out when you're practicing your drawing. So all I'm doing is I dip it right in the medium, and I'm just basically going to do the outline of this jellyfish that I decided to do. And I want a lot on my brush, and if it doesn't look like the medium is going on, go ahead and just add another lit line right over where you went. And then what this jelly kind of has a lot at the bottom, so I'm going to kind of curve it that way. And it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to go fast here since it's not showing up as good on the screen. And I have a lot of lines, and you want to make sure you're getting all the major lines. And even some of these dots, I'm going to add some of those dots too. All right. Then I'm going to come down and do some of these detail shapes down here. Again, as my eye is following these shapes here, my hand is trying to follow those same wiggly shapes on the paper. And I'm just trying to follow those same shapes that I already practiced in my sketchbook. I should kind of be really used to it because I've already drawn these shapes. All right. And once I get to the bottom, I want to make sure I have these shapes kind of go all the way to the edge of my page so that I'm making sure I'm using the page as much as possible and curve this line. You're really focusing on line in this lesson and where the curves are and where the details cross over each other. I'm going to do some of these long wavy ones and then also have a contrast of the long wavy ones right next to some of those more detailed lines that kind of have space in between them. See another one just like that. Again, if I see that some of the medium did not stick, I'll just go right over that same line to make sure it does stick in a different spot. And that's the best way to know that you got it all down. And then I'm going to do a couple of those just hanging ones. And at the end, if you feel like there's some space that's unused and you want to add a couple extra lines, these little tiny lines are some good lines to kind of fill your space. If you didn't fill your space, feel free to do a couple different objects maybe coming in from the edges too if you need to. So now that I'm done, I've done all of the lines that I want and details. I'm going to set this aside to dry, and I can practice coloring my drawing in my sketchbook while I wait until the next day. The next day you come into class, what we're going to do is we are going to fill in our deep sea creatures with watercolors. So we are going to need watercolors, and salt. All right, and I've got a finished one here that's already dried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to break this apart in warm and cool colors so that your creature really stands out. So obviously we're probably going to want to use those cool colors for the background. Those blues and those greens are going to want to show as the water. And then I'm going to use some warmer colors for my jelly. So I'm going to just take some of those warm colors and kind of fill in my jelly here. And what's kind of nice with this, with working with watercolors, you could do something called a wet on wet technique, where you kind of wet everywhere you're about to paint. And then what you do is you add water, you add those watercolors to it, and they kind of blend almost like a tie-dye t-shirt. So notice how I just added a bunch of water, and I'm not even painting up here, but because the water's there, my paint's wanting to blend up, almost like it's like going up into the other area. And then I can choose another color to kind of blend down into that. I kind of like this color. I might go with this color. And then I'm going to have this color kind of blend down into there. Maybe I can add some yellows in there too. Again, when you're painting right on wet, it kind of just tie-dyes into each other, which is kind of a really cool technique. And notice how it's not wanting to stick where I had that gel medium. Okay, and now I'm going to paint and start painting kind of some of these lines, kind of filling in some of those spots. And then I'm going to also fill this in with water and have that same technique happen, where I'm kind of letting the colors just tie-dye into each other. I really like that wet on wet technique with these jellies because it makes them look a little bit more see-through, and it gives them just a little bit more contrast. I like this bright color too for the inside. I'm going to do those really squiggly lines. And I kind of fill that in with this bright purplish color. Very good. Once you feel like you're about done with that, you're going to want it to give it some dry time so that it can really dry here. And then you're going to want to start your background. Now, I actually added some on this piece because I didn't fill a lot in. I had some extra space, and I actually had made a couple other pieces of jellyfish kind of coming into the picture. So right now that's what I'm doing while I'm waiting for my big guy to dry. And then when I'm ready, when this one's kind of dry, I'm going to try to stay away from the jellyfish at first. I'm just going to be filling the background in with watercolors. So again, I like to do the wet on wet technique. So instead of going straight to color like I just did on accident, I'm going to add a lot of water everywhere. And then what happens is this, when you add color, it's going to want to kind of go everywhere and start to spread. Again, be careful around where you've painted because you don't want to mess up your jellyfish design. That's what's nice about doing just the water by itself, is it's not going to mess with your colors that you've laid down. So just adding the water is kind of nice to not mess with your design, and then you can go back and add some more color in a little bit once that's dry. And I'm just going to kind of keep adding some wet on wet paint and just literally adding wet paint right onto this background. And right here I saw some of my blue seeping into my jellyfish. If you like the look, go ahead and keep it. If you don't, just get a paper towel and dab it off. And that's all you have to do if that's happening in a spot you don't like it to. And you can fix it. You can come back and add more color later. And since these